Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Women to Know. For those of you who are joining for the first time, Women to Know is a encouraging, welcoming space where we invite women to share about their experiences in life, whether that's something they have been through, something they have journeyed through, something they have overcome, something that is inspiring them to be the best version of themselves that they can be, and who are willing to share those life lessons with the collective sisterhood so that we can gain insight and inspiration from their journey. I am so excited to bring to you today Sarah Bowser, who is an author and a life coach. And I can't wait to dive in today with her, but let me first read Sarah's bio. Also, I should say, she's the founder of That Weird Nerdy Mom, LLC. So Sarah is that weird, nerdy mom, the one who always struggled with belonging, with finding her place in the world. After struggling with anxiety, an autoimmune diagnosis, and suicidal ideation, Sarah found her way back to solid ground, putting together her own system for finding her true self, cultivating self-love and self-belonging. She now helps other weird, nerdy women do the same thing for their own lives. Sarah, welcome today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, you are welcome. As I was sharing with you just a few moments ago, one of the reasons that I love hosting this series is because I believe there is such value and power when we share our story, when we share parts of our journey, and when we have the courage to be vulnerable with the experiences that we have gone through. It creates this container that makes it safe for other women to not only learn from our experiences, but to share their truth too, and to step out and share their story as well. And so I appreciate, even just from your bio, how authentic and how genuine and how open of a person you are. And I know that that's going to touch lives today.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think having the space to not only share your story, but to hear the stories of others is just such an important way of connecting and knowing that you're not alone out in the world, especially when you are that weird, dirty one that maybe didn't have that sense of connection or belonging for a good portion of your life. So it's extremely important, I think. Yeah.
So let's start there, if you don't mind. Why
Absolutely.
don't you hear a little bit about what your experience was growing up, and how the messages that you internalized as a result.
Yeah, that's goes in deep just to start off. But it I was always the odd one out. Growing up. So growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, kind of in that boy band era where everybody, all of the people that I was friends with, they were all into like the boy bands, and they all had their favorite singer or whatever. And I was kind of over here in the corner, like I like those bands too, but I was also the one in the corner listening to Styx and Kiss and the Beatles, and kind of not fitting in with the group in that way. And I was also just really socially awkward. I didn't know the best ways to connect, and I was always I would have friend groups, but I always felt on kind of like the third wheel, or on the outer edges of those groups, where these two would be the real friends, and they were just kind of letting me tag along. And then as I continued through school, I did find those other weird, nerdy groups, but there always seemed to be a caveat kind of attached to that belonging with that group. Like you had to be into this specific weird, nerdy thing. And if you liked this other weird, nerdy thing, didn't jive. You couldn't, it was kind of like, well, all right, well, you're going to we'll keep you over here a little bit. And then similar with my family. I come from a very large family. I love them. They're wonderful, but it's a clash of personalities again, where we not always being understood, not always understanding the others, depending on what their interests or beliefs are. So it's really been that for me, internalizing that I'm different. I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm the black sheep of the friend group. I'm the one that, like, the token weird friend that you see in all like the movies, I guess. Like, so it's been kind of this journey of, okay, taking this internalized feeling of I don't fit in. No one's interested in hearing what I have to say. I too weird to fit into the weird groups. I'm too normal to fit into the really real weird groups, or just not. In taking that, and kind of as I went into college and adulthood, my career, learning to, okay, I need to kind of take a step back and think, what is it that really lights me up? What is it that really, like, when I think deep into the core of my soul, who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? And then just kind of starting to embody that and not be afraid of just being that person, whether I fit in with a group or not. I've come to that point in my life where I feel like as long as I am who I am, I'll attract the like-minded souls to myself, or by whether it's going out and joining some activity group or something out in the world, I'll find other people that like that same thing, or finding a community online where I can share my weird, nerdy ways and attract the same kind of group that way. So it's been this evolution of trying to fit in to just being who I am, and having it all kind of happen organically, if that makes sense.
It does. And so one thing that I want to mention is, we're not throwing any shade, right? We're not
Right. Not at all. No.
Yep, on family, on friends, on,
No.
because
No. Because
these are people who love and care for us, and yet we are recognizing we're all different.
yeah.
Not that, let's even maybe eliminate that label, different, because that's
Right.
triggering for a lot of people,
Right.
because it is an immediate separation. I usually try and say, or I often talk about owning your sparkle.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that makes you unique, and the way that you have been, that we all, not you, but like
Right.
you have been formed, nurtured, created, wired. We have these wirings that make us unique.
Absolutely.
We are how we see the world, the ways that we operate, and those
Yeah.
things are a gift. And I appreciate you sharing so openly the internalized messages that
Yes.
you received, where you were the black sheep. You were too weird. You were too blah, blah, blah. You were too,
right.
too that, which is not true.
Right. Exactly. That is what you're saying. It's like, it's not to throw blame on other people the way that I'm describing. It's our perceptions. And that's kind of one of the things that I've learned over the years, is that two feelings that have really stuck with me throughout my life are feelings of loneliness and rejection. And kind of what I've been able to do in more recent years is kind of learn how to reframe those two feelings, where taking it and saying, okay, what is the situation that's leading up to me feeling lonely or rejected? What is my perception of that situation? How am I perceiving what happened? But then, am I feeling this because I feel as though that I'm perceiving that I have to show up as somebody different to who I am in order to fit in with the situation, to be okay with the situation, or what have you, rather than, so then because I feel like I have to change myself, is that why I'm feeling lonely? Is that why I'm feeling rejected? Because I don't feel comfortable being myself because of my own perceptions of the situation, type of that kind of thing.
Yes, and I think that is a key point. When we come to those places of embracing who we are how we're wired, the sparkle that we have, and the ways that we, just by showing up as ourselves, can impact the world in amazing ways, that rubs against and disrupts the larger cultural narrative about who we are, how
Yep.
we label, the box that we've been put in.
Yep.
And to some degree, we have to come to this place of creating like a couple of things, which we can move into.
Yeah.
Is uh, one, creating the fuck it list, right? Of like, I don't care
Yes.
what your perception of me is. I don't care what your labels are. I don't care, and we create this fuck it list where we put those things that speak and try to speak to who we are that have nothing to do with who we are, and
Yes.
deflect it away.
Yep.
And then we also have the inner work of deconstructing
Yes.
stories and those limited beliefs that we have been conditioned to hold on to by so many pressure points in our life.
Yes. Yeah. Because we,
Which can cause a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
You speak to that a little bit about your journey through not only the deconstruction process for yourself, but how anxiety has shown up in your life.
Yeah.
How you work through that.
Yeah. It's an ongoing journey with the anxiety. But it's been something recently where it's taking the time to kind of, okay, I need to ground myself. I need to recenter, because for me, my experience with anxiety is I tense up. I will be in a situation where either the reality is, or my perception is, that something is not how my brain wants to handle it. It's not the way that it's processing in reality is not the way that my brain works to process it. So then that kind of flips the switch of like, okay, which direction am I going with? Like, so then I have, whether it's trying to interact with somebody that I don't really know, interact with a client at work, interact with maybe someone that I've had a disagreement with in the past, whether personally or with work, and then trying to, okay, I need to ground myself. I need to take a step back and be like, all right, I can tell that I'm getting flustered. I'm getting to this point of like, oh my God, I'm going to like cave into myself and just collapse into a puddle of mush. And then just be able to, okay, take some deep breaths, but then I go into some affirmations as well. And I don't necessarily go straight to like an I am whatever affirmation. A lot of it's with my anxiety, I get into my head to the point where I'm so belittling to myself and so negative, and it's hard. It's been a very hard journey to try to retrain my brain to not be negative towards myself, to not be so self-deprecating, so full of self-doubt, that a lot of times it's something I've learned from one of my mentors is I give myself permission to be this. I give myself permission to be strong, to be courageous, to be whatever it is that I need that affirmation to be in the moment, because my brain doesn't work to go like, I am fantastic. I give myself permission to work towards being fantastic. That way, like I can kind of ease my brain into it, and that it's not this huge jolt that's like trying to just turn the switch on the anxiety. It's okay, let's de-escalate and work our way towards not being maybe as anxious as I am in a specific situation. And it's been a long journey, and it's only been in the last couple of years that I've been able to do that, because I've lived with anxiety for so long that I've tried so many different things in my life to try to like get it to stop. And it's finally come to that point where it's like, okay, it's experimenting with different things just to find whatever it is that works specifically for my brain.
Before we kind of move into this experimenting
Yeah.
pathways to help uncover and embrace
Yeah.
I want to sit in this space of anxiety for a second, because
Absolutely.
we know, many of us know individuals that have moments of anxiety or
Hmm.
have a consistent underlying presence of
Yes.
anxiety. And I think, I know in my own life, there have been times, especially when I was younger and I didn't understand this, where I would get frustrated because I
Hmm.
would think like, why can't you just move out of this, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
so I've done a lot of education in that now,
Yeah.
years later. But to that, I would love for you to share with our listeners today who might have children.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teens and early 20 somethings now who are experiencing consistent anxiety. So many reasons.
Hmm.
I mean, we definitely won't go into all of that.
Yeah.
As a loved one of a person who is in our circle, whether that's family, friends, faith community, wherever that is, and
No.
we know someone who has anxiety, how can we show up and love and care for in ways that are helpful to them without
Yeah.
projecting our own stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, first we have to be aware that that's what we're doing, but
Right.
how
Yeah.
can we be helpful, loving, and caring?
Yeah. It's a tough one because whether you're watching someone go through anxiety and you have anxiety yourself, or maybe you don't struggle with anxiety yourself, the one thing that I have found the least helpful for myself personally is when I'll be going through one of my anxious episodes or periods, depending on what's going on, and the length of time will vary. But the least helpful thing to me is when someone just looks at me and is like, just calm down. It's not that big of a deal. To someone who's going through an anxiety attack or a panic attack or some kind of emotional dysregulation, telling them to calm down and to relax is the least helpful thing that you can do, because it's making them feel, at least from my perspective, it makes me feel, when someone does that to me, that I should be able to just flip it off like a switch. And for many of us with anxiety, that's not a possibility. It takes our brains longer to be able to de-escalate and to process and to calm down. So telling us that, oh, it's not that big of a deal, you just need to calm down. Don't do it. Even if you think that it's not a big deal, even if you think that what they're reacting to or what they're anxious to isn't something that they should be anxious about, just because your brain may work that way doesn't mean that their brain works the same way. They may have gone through something in the past. There could be an underlying trauma that causes that anxiety. There could be just, and it doesn't even have to be an underlying trauma. There could just be something going on in their brain that just tells them like, okay, we need to up the anxiety. We need to up the fight or flight response. We need to do this, even if it's as small as a spider on the wall. Like it doesn't matter. Don't, like, telling someone to calm down is not going to be helpful. But what would be helpful is to say, okay, this is what I hear, what you're telling me. What do you need? Do you need advice? Do you need to just vent? Do you need to just be held, whether it's a hug, a hand holding, an arm around the shoulder, um, whatever it is, just ask them what they need, because, and they might not be able to tell you. There's definitely times where I'm not able to verbalize or even know in my head, what is it that I need? What is going to calm me down? But being able to ask and just listen, actively listen to what they're either telling you or what you can gain from their body language, to be able to be like, okay, I'm not going to tell them to calm down, but I will listen. I will give advice if they ask for it. I will just be a calming presence, whether it's with a hug or just sitting next to them or even in the same vicinity with them, as this silent supportive presence. Whatever, like, those are the things that have been most helpful for me as someone with anxiety. So from my experience, that's what I would recommend and share with loved ones.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that on so many levels, right? Because those of us who haven't experienced it don't understand
Mhm.
what it feels like
Yeah.
in those moments.
Yeah.
And so there's that element. The other aspect of the advice that you shared that I so appreciate is that we in this culture are fixers. We tend to just, that's our first response, is
Mhm.
telling somebody what to do.
Right.
I mean, that says a lot about us, and it says a lot about our culture. And so
Yeah.
I love the perspective of take that hat off and learn how to just sit, maybe literally
Mhm.
sometimes, but
Yeah.
learn how to just sit in space with people and
Right.
let your friend and your loved one guide us in knowing how to support them. And we are, as a culture, not comfortable
No.
in those spaces.
No, silence is a scary thing for in our culture. Like nobody, like it's noise all the time. Like there's such a fear around sitting silent in a conversation. I mean, I get like antsy and like to feel, but I it's been a process the last couple of years. Like, all right, like I know I need to just sit and absorb and listen and not, I don't need to contribute to the noise. I just need to kind of figure out what's going on internally so that I can hopefully help someone externally when they're ready for that, whatever help it is that they may need. But it's crazy too, because we were talking before hitting record about like the expected role of women, and I think it shouldn't be a shock that so many women have and deal with anxiety, and that we're constantly told by those around us to we'll just calm down. This is, especially when we have kids, it's like, well, you signed up to be a mom. It's like, that doesn't mean it's not stressful. That doesn't mean that, like, it's not all lollipops and rainbows and unicorns. Like, as much as my child loves lollipops and rainbows and unicorns, there's a lot more to it. There's like, it's not like, yes, I signed up to be a mom, but raising another human is hard. It's, yes, I signed up to be a working mom, but working is hard. Raising kids is hard. Maintaining a household is hard. Maintaining a relationship and friendships and all of this stuff. Like, there are so many different like plates that we're juggling and spinning all at the same time that it's, the anxiety just adds like this like hyperactive, like, okay, I have to really spin this one over here, but then these five are clashing down over here where we're trying to keep these three going. And then we're like, okay, well, how do we pick up the pieces of this? And then to be told like, oh, you're overreacting. Oh, just calm down, just relax. It's not that big of a deal. It's like, okay, but it is.
Yes, it is.
So having that silence to just, okay, I've gotten to the point in my life where like my husband is so much better at this now than in the past. But like in the past, when he would be the one to just be like, all right, like just calm down, relax. It's not a big deal. I've learned just like, okay, if he says that, then I'm just going to sit in silence. I'm going to take deep breaths and then have the conversation later when hopefully things are a little bit, maybe hopefully calmer, but it really, it's just a process of learning to be comfortable in silence, because it's not something that is a comfort easily.
And sometimes just the act of validating
Mm-hmm.
what someone is feeling
Yes.
is
Yes.
so compassionately powerful, right? Like,
Yeah.
there, I see that this is a difficult moment right now, and you are juggling so many things,
Yes.
and I see that you are anxious.
Yeah.
I'm holding space for that.
That's huge.
How can I support you right now?
Yeah, that is
Sometimes
huge.
without even that latter end, just I see that you're anxious.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just
Mm-hmm.
validate. And that is a normal thing to feel.
Right. Because then you're feeling, because that gives you that feeling of being seen. The validation proves that, okay, I do exist. Like, because a lot of times, at least for myself, when I'm in that anxiety state, I feel invisible, that I'm trying to do all of these things and I'm just kind of in the shadows and nobody is seeing or recognizing it. But getting that external validation of, okay, I recognize that you're feeling those things, it's huge, because you're like, okay, that mist is kind of starting to go away. I am real. I can pinch myself. I can reach out and touch my husband. I can reach out and touch my kids. I exist. And they understand that I'm going through whatever it is that I'm going through. So it's that validation is huge.
Yeah. So learning to be comfortable in silence, letting the loved one guide you in how to respond and care for them.
Yep.
Validation.
Yes.
Feelings. Those are three simple things that we can all do in those moments.
Okay. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I want to bounce back to this concept of belonging.
Yeah.
And in particular, I want to touch on, you had mentioned in college in particular is when you really started to dig in and embrace who you are, how you're wired. Yep. And come to this process of really owning that. Yeah. And so when we think about belonging, all of us have this need and desire to belong. Yes. And whether we are the weird nerdy type, or we're the this type or the that type, the sense of belonging is universal. Absolutely. And so for you, what was that process of shifting from a place of feeling that you had to fight to belong, to then standing in this place of knowing you belong? Yeah. So when I first went to college, my first job was at Borders in college. So I moved away from home, came to Western New York, and started working at Borders. And that's where I found my first tribe of just, and not even necessarily like-minded individuals. Like, we're just these weird people that just, we're so completely different, but we're so completely the same at the same time, where I learned that it was okay to just show up in weird sweatshirts, or just like call across the bookstore to each other in weird, goofy voices, or just do all these different things where I could finally like embrace being, okay, I am that weird one that I like the weird cartoons. I like I can quote you Monty Python till the cows come home. Like and to have the people where I could, like, it doesn't matter what the weird nerdy thing is, we can vent and just word vomit about it. And the others in our group just listen. And even if they don't have a clue what you're talking about, they can still pick out something that is like, oh, I understand that. Or, oh, tell me about, say that again. I want to check that out more. And it kind of just gives you that permission almost to be unabashedly yourself. And it wasn't like a light switch went on or off in college. It was still a process for me to like get more comfortable. But like, as I went through the college years, I went through, like, even though I didn't work at Borders for longer than a year before getting an internship and kind of moving into like the professional stages of my life, those girls have been like my solid foundation for the last, 15 years almost. Like, it's like this, it's just that first sense of safety that you get when you're allowed to be who you are, or you feel like you're allowed to be who you are, because you're always allowed to be you. It's just whether you feel safe to be you or feel comfortable to be you. And it's, once you start to get that first sense of that safety, it's like this huge weight starts to lift. And it's not an immediate lifting, because it takes time. Like, for 18 years of my life, I didn't feel safe necessarily being who I was, because I always felt that fear of rejection, that fear of loneliness. But once
that mist starts to lift, once that weight starts to come out and you can start to kind of peek through the dirt that's kind of buried on top of you, it's like this, oh, well, I'm going to start looking at this because this has always kind of intrigued my interest, or I've always been saying that I like this, but do I really like it? Do I really want to like go into it further? So then, and then it's just like this group which just kind of helps lift you up and gives you that confidence, like, oh, you're going to look into that. Can I look into it with you? Or, hey, I'm going to go check out this group or this course or whatever, and can want to come with me? I just want someone to like go with. And so it kind of gives you that, all right, I can, that hug that kind of brings you down from your anxiety and your fear. And so it's just been a gradual growth from there to the point where I felt 100% comfortable having a completely nerdy wedding, where when my husband and I got married, like our card box was a TARDIS from Doctor Who. We did fortune tellers with Monty Python and Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings quotes in them. Like it was just this epic celebration of both us and our nerdiness, and it was fantastic. And it's been kind of a gradual climb and lifting ever since, to be like, okay, I can be me without so much fear. And as the years have gone on, like that fog is almost like pretty much completely gone at this point. There's still little pockets every now and then, depending on different situations, but it's like, all right, I can be me.
I have goosebumps. Right, because it's such a beautiful thing. There are so many, as a women's empowerment coach, my primary way I show up in the world, there are so many messages that women are bombarded with right from like day one.
Mm-hmm.
And how they can really and do create these very false frameworks for how we are supposed to show up and behave, and your experience shares that sometimes it takes a while, and it does for all of us, to pick and pluck out those things that are counter who we are, and embrace and own who we are, and to hear even just this small portion of your journey of how you are at this point embracing, standing in that, owning that, celebrating that is a beautiful expression of love, self-love, self-care, self-compassion, self-agency, self-advocacy. And I hope that this inspires so many women who are listening.
No, I hope so.
To reflect and do the inner work themselves to get to this same point, right? Like, so yes, I had goosebumps as you were sharing. Like the disruption of the narratives. I'm all about that, and it's so important that we are conscious of what we are receiving, what we are internalizing, and how it's affecting all of us, our heart, our mind, our soul, our passion, the way we show up in the world.
Yeah, because the way that we internalize these expectations that society and the world puts on us, it takes a toll. Because I as I was after my wedding, my husband and I, it took us 4 years of trying to have a kid. We finally had my daughter, and that's when things kind of started to go a little sideways again. And because as women, as moms, we're told, oh, you have to be the Pinterest mom. You have to lose the baby weight immediately. You have to do all, like, you have to breastfeed. You have to do this. You have to do that. You can't co-sleep. You have to do organic baby food. You have to do all these things. And it's overwhelming to the point where it's like, all right, like I'm going to do it. And then one thing doesn't work. And then this thing kind of works, but then this thing just really doesn't work. And then you're doing all of the things that you think you need to do to be a good mom, but then your ingrained feelings of society are still telling you that you're not good enough because you still have 30 pounds of baby weight. You haven't gotten rid of that yet? Like, what are you doing? Like, come on, if you were a real mom, you would be able to take care of your baby, work out 5 hours a day, and get rid of all the body weight. And I just felt myself getting so much more drained and just experiencing all of these different symptoms to the point, like, I couldn't lose weight no matter what I did. My hair was falling out. My skin was just this scaly, nasty mess of eczema. And I just the fatigue, the brain fog, just everything was just kind of colliding in on itself to the point where I had to fight my doctor to actually do tests, because at one point they were just my primary physician was just like, so what I'm hearing is that you want to lose weight. It's like, are you not listening to the myriad other symptoms that I just spouted out off to you? Like, I'm telling you that something's wrong. So finally, like, they started to run tests, and a new doctor and specialist later, because it got to the point where they had done a thyroid ultrasound. There were growths, and they were like, man, we're not going to do anything about it. I'm like, what?
Yes, you are.
Yes. So that's when I switched doctors, went for a biopsy, all this stuff. And it was kind of like the switch, because I got an autoimmune diagnosis of Hashimoto's. And I'm like, all right, I have an answer. It's not cancer. It's just autoimmune disease. We can do this. Let's figure this out so I can go back to being me. And my specialist was just like, yeah, we're not going to do anything. There's nothing that we can do. Basically, it's just going to keep continuing to fail, and your thyroid will just continue to fail until you just continue to feel like crap, until it's just permanent. And oh, by the way, if you try to have another baby, you'll have a miscarriage. And I'm like, what? So then, after having done all of this decades worth of work trying to get to who I am and being myself, it was like this like huge push off a cliff to just start the spiral over again, just even to a more extreme degree, because this led to, like, I could put up a good front on the outside, but in the inside, I'm like, what the hell is the point if I'm just going to continue to get worse? I'm going to not be good. I'm not going to be a good human. I'm not going to be a good mom to my daughter. I'm not going to be a good wife to my husband. Like, why the hell am I here? Like, what is the point? And it led to the spiral of suicidal ideation, and just like, if the doctor's not going to do anything, there must not be anything to do. So then why bother? So it came to a head in the middle of the night one night, where like our daughter was just having a hard time going to sleep, and we're both in her room trying to get her to calm and soothe and just go back to sleep. And I don't like it, just something just like clicked, and I'm like I just spewed it all to my husband. I'm like, you guys would be better off without me. And it was like that, it's like that unknowing realization of like, okay, if I speak up now, even if I'm not like literally saying I need help, this is that first outreach of I need help type situation. So it was kind of that catalyst of, okay, I can start to claw my way back up to the top again, and start to the process of unburying myself, of clearing the fog again. And then it was fighting with the doctors to be like, no, you need to listen to me. This is not about losing weight. This is not about fitting some societal expectation of what women are supposed to look like. This is about me feeling like a human being, being able to function, not have my hair fall out, not have eczema taking over my body, not have brain fog to the point where I barely put a cohesive thought together. I want to be a human being that can get off the damn couch and dance with my kid. When she's 2, she wants to have a normal dance party. I want to have a normal dance party with her. Like, I just want to be able to function to that point. So learning how it was a trial by fire process of learning how to get doctors to listen to me, learning okay, maybe I need to go and look for new doctors, look for new specialists, look for someone who will actually listen to what I'm saying and not be afraid of, okay, well, they're the expert, they know best. Yes, they're the expert, but you still need someone who's going to actually want to be the expert to help you. Like, if the expert doesn't want to help, it's time to find a new expert. So that kind of journey of, all right, learning how to advocate for myself and learning how to navigate this world of autoimmune disease and all this new medical stuff that I didn't really think I would ever have to deal with, kind of gave me that, okay, if I can do this, then I can continue to experiment and do all this other stuff to okay, I'm going to find all the stuff that still resonates with me. Like, I've been in this fog, I've been a mom, I've given up who I was to all of this stuff that's going on around me. It's time to refine myself and to reclaim who I am and discover who I am, because just because we found ourselves once doesn't mean we're going to be the same person 10 years later when we need to find ourselves again. So it's just going through that cycle and kind of going. That was a long-winded.
I so appreciate your honesty, and I so appreciate your willingness to speak of your experience in life.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of things that stood out to me while you were sharing that I want to touch on.
Yeah.
And one of them is, it goes back to this, not that we're going to find answers today, because some of the systems are messed up.
Yeah.
All that. So this sense of belonging, this sense of being seen, this sense of being accepted and validated as a human being is one that, again, is universal. Mm-hmm. And especially for women, it continues to show up in spaces where we are not seen, we are not heard, we are not validated. And one of those spaces is within the medical industry that continues to say to us and project and tell us that what we're experiencing is not correct, or it's just this, or it's just that, and it's discarded. Yep. And so one thing that I hope that our listeners today will take away from this is you must listen to your body and advocate for yourself every step of the way, because so much of our medical care industry is now just based on insurance and numbers and what falls within the plan, not what's best as a pathway for healing people.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's going to be a whole nother workshop. But my hope is that women will because there are still many women who will listen to what their doctor is saying because they have the degree. They're in the space. They've got 30 years of experience. Nowadays, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it doesn't give them the right to gaslight us. There are other experts with the same degree, with the same education, who will listen. Like, I will never go out in the world and say that I know better than a doctor because I don't have medical training, but I don't have a problem saying, like, this one was going to gaslight me into telling me that I'm not experiencing what I'm actually experiencing. It's time to go find one that's not going to gaslight me. When you think about it, like, yes, we have to deal with the insurance and all of this bull crap that's out there. It's literal bullshit, the insurance industry. But the doctors ultimately work for us.
Yes.
We're the ones that give them jobs, basically, because we're the patients. We're the ones that have to go to the doctor. So we can fire our doctors and we can pick a different one, one that will listen to us and take our struggles and our concerns and our symptoms seriously.
Drop mic, right? The other thing that I want to point to and affirm and thank you for is sharing the experience of having suicidal ideations. And I think this is more common than many women will voice and share, in part because of this societal condition that tells us to always be happy.
Yeah.
As mom.
We should be able to handle it.
Exactly. And And so I appreciate that you were so open about your experience, because I believe and know that that is going to resonate with women who are, whether you are a mom, especially if you're a mom, because you've hit those moments,
Oh yeah.
moments. But even if you're not a mom, as a woman, there are times in our life where we just feel like, what's the
Yeah.
point of this? Can
Yeah.
I do, is this all that there is? And if this is all that there is, I don't know that I want to be doing this. We
Yeah.
hit those moments. And so I appreciate the expression of where you were, so that other women can acknowledge that if
Yeah.
they were there. And if it's a space where, if you are listening and you are in that space and you need care, okay, obviously there's immediate care, you need to call like 911 crisis centers and things.
Mhm.
There's that level. But if you are in a situation where you're just feeling so overwhelmed by, reach out to Sarah.
Mhm.
Reach out to Sarah. Her contact information will be below. And so as a person who has lived it and experienced it, she will be a presence in your life to
Absolutely.
support you and hold space for you in
Yeah.
those moments. And you are also welcome to reach out to me as well. Like, there are people who care,
Mhm.
love, and support you. It is okay to voice it. It is
Yeah.
okay to acknowledge it. It's okay to recognize and hold space for yourself in that way, and to receive the support that you.
Absolutely. And especially too, like if you don't feel safe going, like I felt safe going to my husband, but we might, not everybody's going to have that safe person that they can go to with this kind of stuff. So that's what, if we're happy to be that safe space for anybody that needs it, because it's important to have, because like I said, it wasn't an actual verbalizing of I need help. It was just sometimes that first act of admitting how you're struggling and how you're feeling, whether you're clearly asking for help or not, is that first step to asking for help. So having someone be that safe space for you to have that first verbalization, like I am here and I am happy to be that safe space, because it's important to have that.
Yes. I can't believe how, we are almost out of time, and
I know.
it just feels like we just started a few minutes ago. So before we close, I
Yeah.
want to make sure to do two things. I want to talk about that weirdnerdymom.com and what it
Yeah.
do through that, and I want to talk about your book that's coming out soon. So let's
Yeah.
start with, what is it? How do you show up for the moms that you work with through that Weird Nerdy Mom?
Yeah. So I offer coaching. I offer, I'm in the process of putting together some digital courses to kind of help walk, especially um, because the first one that I'm working on is a digital organization one, because as we're nerdy moms, there are a lot of different pieces that kind of get lost in everything. So like we're so busy putting the day-to-day pieces together that we can't focus on ourselves. So I have a course where kind of taking you through digital organization, both for home, for kids, for work, for all of your interests, just to kind of give it a place to automate it as much as you can, so that you can just focus on, okay, I don't have to keep track of what I have in my pantry today, so I'm going to actually read a chapter of a book. I don't have to track when this thing for school is due. Okay, I'm going to go for a walk and enjoy being outside. So I have that digital course. I have coaching where help. I'd like to call myself an unconventional self-esteem coach, because teaching women how to go through that journey of self-love and self-belonging and kind of reclaiming who you are as a person is obviously something I'm passionate about, because it's what's gotten me to where I am in life today. So I coach on that. And then I am also an author. So last year I contributed to a couple of anthologies, focusing on courage and belonging. And actually on Friday, April 28th, my first solo book is coming out. It's called Cultivating Self-Love and Self-Belonging, that weird nerdy mom's guide to embracing your inner nerd and loving it. So it's kind of like a chapter by chapter guide on like the process that I followed to, okay, this is who I am and this is who I'm going to be, and learning to love that identity of myself and that core soul piece of myself. So yeah.
Love it. I love it. And will that book be available through Amazon?
Yep. So there's a link on my website to pre-order it, but the Kindle link and the paperback link will all be on my website as well once it releases.
Perfect. Okay. So then for anyone who would like to get in touch with Sarah, learn more about what she does, and schedule a call, like, we will have all of Sarah's contact information and socials in the caption below, and we will include that link to to Amazon where you can purchase her book. Sarah, thank you so much for being not only so vulnerable and open, which is incredibly important because that's how we connect, and it's how we feel inspired and hopeful, and how we learn. And in that, thank you for the work that you're doing to support women in that journey of self-love, embracing who they are for the amazing and wonderful woman that they are wired to be, and owning that and letting that shine like a disco ball. I talk about that all the time. Sparkle and let it shine like a disco ball.
I love it.
Right? Like,
I love it.
And so I just want to honor and affirm what you are doing, because what you are doing is so incredibly important.
Thank you.
This to the collective sisterhood of standing in who they are, owning who they are, and because when we are able to do that, the quality of our life significantly improves, because we are so aligned and in touch and in tune with who we are.
Absolutely.
So thank you for being a guest on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's been awesome talking with you.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks, everyone.